Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Caroline Weiland. I'm coordinating the MBA Renewables, and I have the pleasure to welcome you all tonight to the opening of our second Alumni Conference tonight. So we are very glad that so many of you came here to Berlin, some of you from, maybe not Wolfgang, but some from very far away places. Okay, well that counts doubled. Some came from Australia, from the United States, from Canada, from Mozambique, and so we appreciate that a lot, and we're very glad that you're here. The motto of this year's conference is Perspectives of Renewable Power Generation for On-Grid and Off-Grid Power Supply. And in the next 4 days, we will listen to talks by renewable energy experts. We will hear about recent projects by some of our MBA alumni, and we'll visit a hybrid power plant, and we'll also have enough time to network, to discuss things, and to get to know each other much more better, I hope. And since MBA Renewables is a distance learning program, it is always a special moment for my colleagues, and also for me, of course, to meet our students face to face. This usually happens at the end of their or of your studies, when you have to come to Berlin to defend your master's thesis in an oral exam. And on such an occasion, some weeks ago, we celebrated a joyful jubilee, our 75th graduate in the MBA Renewables program. Yeah. But there's always a however, in my world at least, and as you all know, we live in a fast-paced world, so this number is already outdated, and in fact the number of graduates increased dramatically by today. Insider joke. I can proudly announce that we set a new record today by having 5 master's examinations only today. The first one started at 9 o'clock and the last one was at 3 o'clock, I think. And so I would like to take the opportunity to thank first of all my colleagues Tina Büttner and Diana Schild, who's over there, for making this possible. And then of course I would like to thank the examiners, Professor Pumpe, who is also the study program director, which we are very glad about, and Professor Stock, and also Professor Weimann, which I haven't seen yet. So, and last but not least, of course, I also would like to congratulate the 5 fresh graduates, and I'll read their names. Rika Laukonen-Seitz from Finland, Rodrigo Washizu from Brazil, Laura Löffen from Russia, Stefan Lang from Bavaria, and Andrea Ranzanici from Italy. Maybe you just can stand up so all know who you are. That's Rika. We will listen to Andrea later this evening when he will reveal how the MBA Renewables has electrified his career. But before that, I would like to hand over to our first speaker of the evening, the Vice President for Research of the Beuth University of Applied Sciences, Professor Dr. Sebastian von Klinsky.
Yeah, thank you very much for the very friendly welcome. And I also would like to welcome you here. I'm very happy that you're here, and I'm also very overwhelmed by this international audience or the international graduates, and that makes me optimistic a little bit again. And I think you're very important, I just said it, and the question is why? And the reason for this is our world is changing as the climate changes, and these changes will have a major impact on our whole world. It will lead to droughts, to famine, to radical changes in the environment, also especially for the animals, and most certainly it will also lead to wars. For several years we have seen how the political stagnation in the direction to climate change we had to notice that the biggest emitter of carbon dioxide, China, on one side increased its efforts in renewable energies, but still increased the carbon dioxide emission. And we also had to see how the United States, the second biggest emitter of carbon dioxide, left the Paris Climate Accord. And at the same time, we also see how emerging countries, also like India, still have increasing emissions of carbon dioxide due to the economic development. And at the same time, we see the consequences of these global warming every day and everywhere, even here in Germany. And so what is about Germany? Are we doing a good job here in Germany? By no means. If we consider the emission per capita, then China emits 6.6 tons of carbon dioxide every year for each resident. Germany emits 8.93 tons, which is considerably more than China. And the absolute high score goes to Qatar with 35.8 tons per capita and inhabitant. This is 4 times the consumption of a German. And the past showed that ecological progress is always sacrificed to economic growth, not only in the rest of the world, but also in Germany. It proved again that we cannot expect that political initiatives will stop the accelerating change in climate. And this rather sounds very pessimistic, I think, when I just talk to a colleague. But the optimistic issue is that you are here. And why makes this me optimistic? Renewable energies must not only be better, but they also must be cheaper than other resources. Otherwise, we know they will not be adopted. And to achieve this, we need a lot of innovations in many areas of energy production and consumption. And you have a major part in creating these requirements to achieve this target. It is indispensable that technological innovations come from both the universities, research institutes, and the economy to actually achieve the progress that we are all aiming at. And it will not be sufficient to develop these new technologies. We also have to take care that they are also adopted by the companies in the various countries. The Beuth University has a strategy, and with this strategy we decisively dedicated us to address the problems. The strategy is described by the slogan, City of Future, and that means that we want to address all the urgent questions with which we want to solve, or at least generate solutions for creating cities of the future. The Beuth University is in a continuous progress of focusing both its courses of studies and its research initiatives to find answers to these urgent questions. We want to propagate, with our technology transfer, these new approaches into the workforce of the future and to contribute by this to preserving our world like it is today. We do this with more than 73 degrees of bachelor and master degrees in the fields of technology, computer science, classical engineering, natural science, life sciences, and economics. And currently we have somewhere around 13,000 students that are enrolled in these programs. The University of Applied Sciences, we have very practical-oriented professors with a minimum of 5 years of experience in the industry. So they understand the industry. In addition to this, we have hundreds of external lecturers from the industry. By doing so, by having these experts from the industry, we always know very well what the industry needs and how we can help them to continue their innovations and progress. You decided to enroll in the MBA Renewables in the past and did your graduation here. And with this, you have become a very important part in a progress to find the solutions, or find solutions for our world, to preserve it. And thus you have a very, very important part in this development. And for this initiative that you did, you paid for the studies and you switched maybe from a different field of studies to this. For this, I would like to thank you, because you become an important part to preserve the world as we enjoy it today. And of course, I also want to thank today for this very pleasant event. For example, Mr. Schindler, Mrs. Weiland, just here, Mrs. Bittner, and also my colleague, Mr. Pumpe. Not for only organizing the event today, but also for organizing the MBA Renewables. And of course, and I also want to thank our very valuable partner, the RENAC, today represented by Mrs. Seringer. They have a very important, valuable share in designing these studies here and organizing all this. Also, thank you. You're also very important for this overall process, which is very important for all of us. Thank you very much. And now, I just want to thank you for your attention. I wish you a lot of fun and scientific insights with the rest of the events, and thank you.
Thank you, Sebastian. As our Vice President, it's always important to have the support of the university for such kind of events. And thank you for thanking also all people involved in MBA Renewables, which we are really proud of, to having this collaboration with RENAC since 2008, which has culminated now to more than 80 graduates. And if we could calculate the tons of carbon we are saving worldwide with our impact on having you in the renewable energy market, we would be one of the outstanding institutions, I guess, at least here in Berlin. So we can also be very happy and proud of it. And I once again warmly welcome you here at Beuth University, where you can see the historical roots of German industrialization here. I mean, you can even smell it a little bit. The smell of oil is still in this hall. Yeah, and Beuth helped a country which was at those time, or could be considered as a non-industrialized country, to become an industrial country, to be one of the export champions of the world. Germany as an industrial power was also shaped by persons like we named our university with, by Christian Peter Wilhelm Beuth. Today we are here to celebrate our alumni, and we are very happy to have our new students also here attending the summer school in the second semester of the MBA Renewables. So please take the chance, juniors, to meet the seniors, to interact, of course. You have taken already. Okay, by age, sometimes it may differ also. Some may have gray hair, some not. But it doesn't matter for us. Whoever is working in renewable energy, wherever they work, whomever they depend on, they are in the team. Because we have to combat climate change. You know, Paris Agreement, 195 countries signed. Only 177 became members of it. And we still have one common goal. That is to limit the rise of global temperatures at 1.5 centigrades. If that is possible. And we know we have a very long retention time. We are here in the university. We are working hard to combat climate change. We are working on both sides of the scissors. I always say, cut with the scissors, cut carbon dioxide emissions. One side is renewable energy, the other side is energy efficiency in all our processes. So we should work very hard, because one colleague of us working in Potsdam, it's Professor Schellenhuber, very close by, where once upon Einstein was working as a professor, he very much said the tipping point is 2 centigrade degree of global warming. Then we cannot manage the finance anymore. We will have catastrophes like Professor Klinsky just explained to us. So today I would fail in my duty to not congratulate two of my dearest colleagues over the past 10 years. And this is Mr. Bright, who could not be here today because he has a special day today. It's his birthday, to say. Yes, and I would like to ask my colleague Professor Pumpe as program coordinator to please come up, and I request all the students please give him a small birthday song. You know, with special persons, yes, I can sing it in Spanish, but only the children version with a bad ending. You may know it. Some people are there. And maybe in Tamil. Yeah, some colleagues are there from India, so it's there in all languages. So we need these crazy persons. We sometimes say we are crazy Germans because we are also dedicating our lives to renewable energies. And one symbol of this I can show you here. Germany has issued a travel guide only on renewable energies. It's available in English, it is here, so wherever you want to go, wherever you want to be in a region where a lot of biogas is produced, you can find it here. Isn't it crazy? So it's Baedeker, Germany Experience in Renewable Energy. Very new guide, recommended to all of you who is interested in the field of renewable energies. So let me thank the persons involved, and maybe also the persons, she's having 2 childs just now taking care of, Silja Krösche. She's there from the very beginning in the program. She also joins us. She is not at present working because she's at home till February next year, but then she will join back our team. So thank you very much, Silja, for your work for MBA Renewables. Hidden among the seniors are also some professors of yours. You might have identified management accounting. Professor Schmitz is here, just here in the first row. Gilbert is there, project management, yeah. Some more professors hidden, which I haven't seen, I think not. But Craig, where is Craig? Of course, Craig, Renewable Energies, Craig. Huh? Dr. Müller? And Dr. Müller? Where's Dr. Müller? Yes, I see. Oh, Dr. Müller. I haven't met all yet. So thank you very much for your... Toby Couture is missing, but we should still mention the name. Where's Toby? There's Toby. Yeah. On your curriculum, you look much younger now. I'm just joking. He can resist this. No, I haven't seen you because he's in the shadow. Sorry, Tony Couture. But he's one of the new professors. So he's one of our young professors, just joined this year, I think, with the first course in our team. So we are happy to have you with us. And I wish you a great success, first of all, for the students who just joined the summer school right now, and for the alumni who will have, again, a refreshment of their knowledge here at our Alumni Meet 2018. And you should not miss to be in the long night of science here at Beuth University and maybe other universities here in Berlin, because they are open up the gates for all the interested parties to see the laboratories and to see the actual work which is going on in the research institutions and the institutes here all around Beuth University and Berlin, which you all get, the alumni, they get a free ride ticket, or they get a ticket from Mrs. Weiland, presented later on. So now it's my last duty to present Mrs. Seringer from RENAC, our dearest partner in the MBA Renewable Program. She will continue with the program just now. So Uta Seringer, please. Thank you.
Wow. Good evening, dear MBA Renewables alumni. I see. I'm so happy to see you again. Good evening, colleagues from the Beuth University. Good evening, my colleagues, my team from the Renewables Academy. Good evening, dear guests of the MBA Renewables, and good evening, dear MBA Renewables students. First of all, I have to tell you some greetings from my boss, the CEO and founder of Renewables Academy, Mr. Bertolt White. He could not be with us this evening, and I know he is quite unhappy about this, but he's outside of Berlin, and next time he will be with us. Well, in general, I would not talk about myself in front of such an audience, but today I will, because my professional life is strongly connected to the MBA Renewables, and it's worth, I think, to speak about the story of the MBA Renewables. We started in 2011, in October 2011. This was the year of the nuclear disaster of Fukushima, and this was a coincidence. You cannot develop a study program within half a year, but for us it was a strong signal, well, we do the right things, and it was another signal that it is time to change. At this time, I was not involved in the renewables, MBA Renewables team. For me, to be honest, at this time, the MBA Renewables was a kind of just another project of Renewables Academy, maybe with just another partner, the Beuth University, which I did not know. And it was a kind of virtual project because it's a distance learning study program. I started in the energy sector, my career in the energy sector in the 90s at the German Institute for Economic Research as a student assistant. And my job was to collect numbers of energy production and energy consumption in the former Soviet Union countries and in Eastern Europe. And it was a kind of part-time job. I really was busy with this to prepare energy balances. And at this time, my first contact with this energy sector was, that the energy sector at this time was a kind of closed club, dominated by older engineers and economists, focused on, a centralized, large-scale approach, and of course fossil fuel-based. This was the time we started a discussion about the liberalization of power markets here in Europe. But as far as I understood, it was more a discussion about a re-regulation of existing power markets. We wanted to open the markets for independent power producers, but renewable energy technology use did not play a significant role in this time. And however, I stayed a while there. And then in 2008, Bertolt White, which I knew from who I knew from another job, hired me as a freelance consultant at the Renewables Academy, which was a startup company. And he's not here today. And I can be honest, I not really had a clue about renewable energy technologies. But I realized I would like to have this job. So I said, yes, of course, I will do this. And I started a part-time study, and I did my master in renewable energies. Also, it was a hard time, but this is not a story I would like to tell you. Well, the MBA Renewables started in 2011 in October without me. And for me, it was, as I already said, a kind of virtual project. This changed a little bit in the summer 2012 and 2030 during the first on-campus times of the renewable MBA Renewables. Well, I would say the RENAC has the most very grateful job in this cooperation. We organized this on-campus time of this virtual or of this distance learning study program. And the students came in and trained 2 weeks at RENAC in our Renewable Energy Training Center. And maybe I would like to use this moment to thank to our lecturers who do this online job, because this is the harder job. And I have the students then there in Berlin, and yes, I will tell you, we have every time an amazing time. So 2013, at the end of 2013, the MBA was handed over to me. My former colleague Tina Völker, who was the right person to develop this program from Weiland side, left Berlin for another job, for another challenging job. Well, and I remember this time, Silja, Professor Schindler, well, the MBA program was accredited by FIBA. Well, and in March 2014, we welcomed the first graduates. And I was more an outsider and a half insider of this program. So, but this situation completely changed in June 2014 during my first on-campus time. I see Michelle, Antonio, Silvia, Alejandra will be with us, David, of course, yes, Alejandra, Antonio, David, Silvia, Michelle. Do you remember these 2 weeks? You were so demanding. It was amazing. This passion was unexpected for me. You demanded more exercises, give us more field trips, more lessons, more information about renewable energy markets. This was amazing for me. And this procedure repeated the next year, the on-campus time 2015, 2016 and 17. I'm happy to see Slatko, Laura will be with us. Laura, yeah. Alexander, Stefan, Rodrigo, and Andrea, yeah. And to work with these interested people, with these interested advanced students, this is amazing. I like this job, and to feel this passion. It's not only on content, it is more than this. This passion about renewable energy use, this is what was outstanding for me. Last year, we were able to organize our first alumni conference. More than 20 alumni from the MBA Renewables returned to Berlin after having graduated here in Berlin. And this year we will open the second alumni conference with more than 25 people. And you came back, you returned to Berlin after fulfilled your duty, and you would like to learn and discuss again about renewable energy use. And I'm sure we will discuss it from the perspectives of economics, technology, and politics. And yesterday I watched our MBA Renewables corporate videos again. And well, this enthusiasm and this passion and engagement, for me it is outside. It's more than a job. I use the word passion quite often this evening. But I think the passion, enthusiasm, and the insistence of the first renewable energy pioneers, these are the reasons that the energy sector changed. At least the renewable energy sector is a sector with younger engineers, with innovative people or people interested in innovative approaches. I mean not only innovative technology approaches, I mean approaches in policy and financing approaches. They are able to handle small, medium and large scale applications, centralized, decentralized approaches, on-grid, off-grid, and the firm belief in the possibility to that a sustainable energy future may be possible. This is what I like in this renewable energy sector. We find there engineers, we find there technicians, we find social scientists, natural scientists, a wide range of people with different educational backgrounds. And the sector is more international, and I would say it's quite open-minded. And all these attributes are also typical for our program, the MBA Renewables program, and I would even say the MBA Renewables community. I would like to use the word passion again, because I would like to thank to my boss, who is not here, but first of all to Professor Pumpe and to Professor Schindler, because you need some passion to do such a, not a crazy project, but a program, yeah. And I also would like to thank, in the name of my boss, Bertolt Breit, my team, Lene Gröbler and Diana Dardon. Lene Gröbler organized or supported us by organizing this conference. Diana, yes. And Yes, give them a sign. And of course, last but not least, I would like to thank my colleagues from the Beuth University, Silja, of course, Silja Krösche, Tina Büttner, I saw, Jutta Dittmann, the accountant, from this program. She's here, and this is amazing. Ivona Shivkov and Diana Schild. I do not see you, but we will meet each other. And to Caroline Weiland, thank you for this teamwork. So, but now I would like to switch my role. I'm a part of the organization team of this conference. Dear alumni, we meet each other tomorrow at 9 o'clock at Weiland. Yeah? We will have a field trip to the hybrid power plant in Prenzlau. And yeah, I'm really happy that we could appoint this field trip, and in the afternoon you will visit Autarsis, another company. 9 o'clock at Weiland. Okay, thank you.
So I have already mentioned his name earlier this evening. Now I would like to introduce Andrea Ranzanici, who is, so to say, our freshest alumni, because you were the one at 3 o'clock with the exam. Andrea is a consultant and project manager for access to energy in developing and emerging countries at March in Bergamo. He started the MBA Renewables Programme in 2015 and has graduated on the topic Modeling Sustainable Tourism Mobility, a proposal for smart, green and integrated mobility system on Lake Iseo in Italy. And now he will tell us more about our program from a student's perspective, and which I look very much forward to hear. And the title of his speech is From Power to People Networks, How the MBA Renewables Has Electrified My Career. So Andrea, please come. Sure, forgot the most important.
We'll be back in a minute. Bless. All right. So, yeah. Thank you, Karen. As you just pointed out, I'm the youngest alumnus of the MBA Renewables, apparently. So I won't be talking much about my life as alumnus, which mostly consisted in finalizing this presentation while drinking a beer at the Irish pub down the corner. So thank you, Professor Pumper, for the tip. It was a very nice pub. But let me get started with that. Yeah, okay, no, it's fine. Sometimes I will just disappear and then come back, no worries. Well, it all started as the only possible choice for an MBA focused on renewable energy. At the time when I started 2015, there was not much choice, and it was very much in line with my career on renewable energy, more on the technical side as an engineer. And back.
I may support you. I cannot.
Oh, I can just, all right.
You will say next slide, please.
The next slide, please.
Yeah.
Oh, just put it on top. Yeah.
So you say next slide.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So it all ended. There was a question mark because I didn't know whether it would end today with the graduation. Otherwise, it would have been my last slide, and then we just go. But apparently it ended. So I'm quite happy about it. Next, please. Well, just a few pictures. So there's a picture about the on-campus time, which was a great time indeed.
So embarrassing.
So at the beginning it was difficult. When I started my MBA project.
No, there isn't. Yeah, it will work. Sorry.
Yeah, it works fine.
Okay.
Thank you, Tina. By the way, maybe Tina Büttner. So now she's here. This is very important.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Good. Thank you. Thank you very much. So when I started 2015, I had just moved to Rwanda for 3-month consultancy, actually for the German Cooperation Agency. So as you might understand, it was the beginning of the MBA, new project, new flats, everything was new. So it was quite hectic at the beginning, I can't deny. But I was also getting used to the company I was working for, how I just started to work with them. And we have quite interesting setup. So we're all scattered around the world. One of my colleagues doesn't even have a house. He works on a sailing boat. So you can imagine how communication can be tricky sometimes. But it somehow worked out. We lacked a bit of the virtual closeness and the heartbeat of the group. I guess most of you can relate from the course of social media. And it was kind of the issue at the beginning to deal with all these challenges. But then things got easier. Works in project and groups were obviously the most challenging ones, as you might have experienced, if only for the time difference, but especially at the beginning, different working attitude, different cultures. At the beginning was a bit of a struggle. But then they were also the most interesting one. We worked on several projects which now are becoming reality. I'll come to that in the next slides. So we work on project on Costa Rica, Congo, Jordan, and so on and so forth. A real case scenario was really exciting. Another thing is that due to work traveling, because I tend to work quite a bit in mostly sub-Saharan Africa, I took exams everywhere. I just remember one in Goma. I don't know who of you is familiar, but Goma is in Congo. It's a city between Congo, Rwanda, and Uganda, and it's a war zone actually. There's the largest UN contingency of army in the world. It's been like that for the last 20 years. And I still remember, but by the time I took the exam, I was supposed to fly back to the capital city, to Kinshasa. But obviously, the flight was delayed. So I remember being in this hangar, it was the airport of Goma. It was quite hectic, people shouting and yelling all around. And I was in the corner of this hangar, I wouldn't call it an airport, trying to focus using my phone as a hotspot, which I tell you, it's quite expensive. Data is quite expensive in Congo. And trying to really focus on the project, well, there was this guy sitting next to me with a mutton head in a transparent plastic bag, dripping blood, and just smiling at me. So it was quite a difficult situation. I think it was also probably the most expensive exam I did because of the data plan was terrible. I was probably spent $50 on that just for 90 minutes exam, but it was totally worth it. So at the end, which other MBA program allows to do that? Which I don't know if it's a good thing or bad, but I think it was very enriching somehow. The cool thing is that I told you the virtual closeness kind of lacked in my company, but I could actually transfer some of the skills I learned during the MBA Renewable in my company. We actually implemented a few more internal procedures, such as bi-weekly meeting on Skype, which were monthly before, new communication tools, face-to-face reunions twice a year before once. And some people will actually manage to balance private life with professional life much better. So we have people with family who can now work from home, and they can actually manage their workload much better. And overall, it was a huge benefit in terms of increasing effectiveness of the work we did. And since at the start of MBA, just to mention a few, and thanks to the MBA, I've become a shareholder of the company, so that's really quite a commitment, and I felt comfortable to do that because I thought that during the MBA, I got the skills I needed to actually take some stronger action. Obviously, I started working on larger and more complex assignments, mostly actually for German companies such as GSZ or KfW, which I don't know if it's the result of the MBA, but for sure it helped, I guess. And we keep growing as a company. We keep hiring now. The cool thing is that we are hiring now junior professionals who can decide whether to work from Milan or Barcelona or Berlin, basically where all the partners are. So I think it's quite a benefit for new people coming into the company and having this opportunity to also balance their private and professional life. But what's most important, I've met great people during the MBA. So I want to be focusing much more about the skills I learned, which were quite obvious, but the people I met, especially during on-campus time. and with some of which we actually bonded quite a lot, and we started working together. I'll give you a few last examples of people, of friends nowadays, who share a few pictures with me the last few days. So this is Silvana? Tatiana, pardon, yeah, Tatiana. Sorry. Tatiana from Siberia. I would... I promised I would pass by Siberia one of these days to try the special like garlic bread apparently, which is very good in the region. Dirk from Jordan, he's German, but well, he lives in Amman, and the sign is actually just trying to show to us is about a project we developed during the MBA and is now being implemented by the GIZ. So it's quite a success story, I guess. Min is being just appointed as a new energy leader of 2018 in Southeast Asia. I also kind of work with them like on few proposals. Unfortunately didn't go through. It was for KfW, for German Cooperation Development Bank, but still, we are still in very good relationships. And Isaac is a Spanish guy. The cool thing is he's just been appointed as a consultant for the World Bank in Niger, in Niamey, at the same time where we were awarded with a new contract for the African Development Bank in Niger. And the cool thing is that Isaac and I will be working on the same project for the next year and a half for two different clients. But the fact that actually next week, I'll be flying to Niamey, having someone who is just inviting me for a beer to drink together and to work together, I think it's a quite success story when it comes to the MBA network I built upon. But so all in all, it's been a long journey after all, but it was totally worth it. So in conclusion, I could tell that from power to people networks, the MBA has electrified my career. That's it. Thank you.
Andrea, thank you. Thank you so much. I knew it because, yes, we watched this corporate MBA Renewables video, and you have really a talent to act in front of camera. And yes, greetings. Watch these movies, please do it. Because the last intake, the last on-campus time, there was another special spirit because the whole on-campus time was accompanied by a film team. Yes, please watch these movies. However, we drafted the conference program. I think a first draft we had 2 years ago because we applied for funding by the German Academic Exchange Service. But to draft a program is one thing, and this year I was a little bit quite late to fulfill this program. And on the program, you see, we now will have our keynote speech. And I thought a while, yeah, a keynote speech, the target is that you get a bigger picture. And I had a list with 1, 2, 3 options, and I called my plan A, Mr. Markus Steigenberger, and he immediately said, yes, I can do this. No, I sent you an email, yeah, and you were outside or something like that, and I said, oh, please, 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 because I told him later on, because I stalked him on YouTube, and I wanted to have such a kind of speech and content for our keynote speech. Well, I spoke a lot this evening. Markus Steigenberger is International Director of Agora Energiewende, and I think you will explain what it is, Agora Energiewende, to our international MBA alumni students. Thank you.
Well, good evening. Thank you very much. Well, yes, if you like, I can just say briefly a word on who we are, Agora Energiewende. Those of you who speak German might know that Energiewende is the energy transition, so that's the famous thing that Germans trying to do for 3 decades now, transforming the energy system from fossil nuclear to mainly renewables. Not without success, I would say. So, and Agora Energiewende is a think tank, basically, which is independent from business interests, independent from the German government, political interests, because we are funded by philanthropy. And our job is basically to develop solutions for the next phase of the transition. So how do you take Germany from currently something like 40% renewables to 60, 70, 80, whatever? That's our job. I'm the one who is leading the international team, which means that we are trying to look a little bit beyond Germany, because we have understood that climate change is not only a German issue, or we're not going to solve it only in Germany, but there's lots of interesting things going on around the world. Now, having this said, allow me, before I actually start talking or start giving my keynote speech, allow me to just say one personal word, because I feel quite somewhere between empathetic and nostalgic tonight, because 10 years ago I've been in the same situation like you are right now. I've done an MBA myself, next to working in a job on European energy policy at that time. And I mean, all that came kind of back to my mind, all these long nights where I spent studying and the exams, and Andrea just talked about this. So I didn't spend the time, I didn't take the exams in Congo, but I had some similar experiences. And also, so I mean, I'm saying this because I know what it takes, what it means, and that I'm also, I know what it means for families. So my family survived, my partnership survived, and I hope yours as well. No, I really kudos to everyone who accomplished this MBA. I think it's a great achievement. Now, the big difference between you and me is that you took a much better choice in the kind of MBA, because you took this renewables MBA, which didn't exist 10 years ago. For my own, to be fair, I have to say, I hadn't had a chance to do a renewables MBA because it simply didn't exist. You took the right choice, because renewables is obviously, I mean, it's one of the most exciting sectors, economic sectors around the world. I think I don't have to talk about this tonight, but from a climate change perspective, and you talked about climate change, I mean, this is our perspective as well. From a climate change perspective, renewables is one of the key strategies. Renewables is really one of the key strategies and actually the big hope. If you are looking for positive news in these times, it's sometimes not that easy to find, but renewables, the growth of renewables is actually one of the key successes of recent years. Last year, you all know it, I think, we have, globally, we have installed 176,000 megawatt of renewables around the globe. That's 2 times the German energy systems. So we have a peak load of 80 gigawatt in Germany. So we built, last year, we built the German energy system 2 times only with renewables. I think that's quite something. Now let me, before I get carried away, let me just take my script out here, because otherwise it would take an hour. So that's quite something, I think. But if you look at this from a climate change perspective, it's actually not enough. If you do your calculations, just take the IEA data. So what does it take to keep global warming below 2 degrees, and not even talking about 1.5, but just to keep it below 2 degrees, we need to build 300 to 400 gigawatt of renewables every year. 300 to 400 gigawatt every year, depending on what you believe happens to nuclear. So, well, I'm not talking about nuclear now. So 300 to 400, and this is only the electricity sector. So if we start electrifying the transport sector, if we start electrifying industry, even more. Now the big question is, of course, and we're discussing this a lot, is that possible? Can we really go to such a number? Can we continue building renewables at that scale? I have lots of good friends, and if you find YouTube videos, people who are basically doing very simple calculations and telling you, of course we can. I mean, what's your point? I mean, we've built 176 gigawatts last year. Solar PV, 98 gigawatt last year, is doubling every second year. So just, I mean, this is a very simple thing. Almost 100 gigawatt in 2017, only solar. So in 2 years, 200. 4 years, 400, 800, 1,200 mid next decade. Now, I mean, I have actually good friends who believe in this. I am a bit more skeptical, I have to say. I'm slightly more skeptical than this because, not so much because of my age, I'm not that old yet, but I'm traveling a lot, and I think what people are usually kind of maybe not ignoring, but I mean maybe not don't want to see is the political dimension of it. So in my view, in our view, I have to say, as Agora, the story of the energy transition, so the story of transforming energy systems towards renewables, is a story of the political economy. what we're going to face, and Germans in this room can tell you a story about this, what we're going to face is a decade-long struggle. It's a bumpy road ahead. We're facing vested interests, path dependencies, political inertia, old-fashioned mindsets, you name it. So let me give you a few examples of what I'm talking about. Is anyone here from South Africa? Ah, there's someone. So would you like to take over? No, because South Africa is a perfect example of what I'm talking about this political economy. South Africa, in the years 2012, 2013, developed a policy design for renewables which was really world-class, was really brilliant, called the REAP. And they managed, with this program, they managed to bring down the costs for wind and solar within a few years to a level where it was 40% cheaper than new coal. Not talking about gas and nuclear, that's anyhow much more expensive. So 40% cheaper in 2015 already. That's an amazing achievement. And guess what happened? The government stopped the program. Since 2015, South Africa has not auctioned any renewables anymore. Only now it's going to start again. But for 3 years, they didn't do anything. I mean, obviously the renewables industry collapsed, jobs got lost, companies left the country, etc., etc. So what was the reason? It's a long debate, but let me just give you two, in my view, two important reasons for this. One is that the South African economy didn't grow anymore. And if you're not in a growing economy anymore, not in a system with growing energy demand, you're in a totally different situation. Because you start competing with existing assets, and then suddenly there's someone who doesn't like you that much anymore. And so that's one thing. And the other thing is, and I think this is an important one, in a way it was homemade, because there were quite a lot of mistakes from the renewables industry. They failed to win the support of South African population. They failed to reach out to workers' unions, with the result that the workers in the end sided with the coal industry and publicly campaigning against renewables in South Africa, etc., etc. So South Africa is a brilliant example of how you can actually, about this political economy. Let me give you another example. I assume that during your MBA you have learned a lot about grids. I mean, grids, grid integration of variable renewables into the grid is one of the key challenges that we're facing. Every system operator in this world is talking about this, and I mean, you know it. Now, you might have heard, because here in Germany we love this story, you might have heard about this one example from Germany from the 1990s. Early 1990s, the German utilities and system operators, at that time it was not unbundled, so it was actually one, they ran a big advertisement campaign all over Germany. Big advertisement campaign. At that time, Germany stood at something like 3% renewables. And these advertisements, they were basically saying, dear Germans, renewables, great stuff, we love it, but you have to understand that for technical reasons, we can only deploy 4%. 4% is the technical limit for renewables in Germany. That was in the mid-1990s. Today, Germany stands at something like almost 40% renewables, and we have some regions where we have 50%, 60%. We have days and moments where we have 70, 80. I think the maximum we had sometime in May was 95% renewables at one time, without risking system reliability in Germany. Now, the interesting thing is now that, as I said, I'm not that old, but I'm traveling a lot, and sometimes I think, I've heard that story in Germany a while ago, because this is exactly what's happening in other places. I give you the example of one country, which I'm not telling you which one it is, but this one country where the system operator started to look into this. And I mean, this is a good thing. System operators should do this. System operators should look into the details of how much renewables can you integrate and what are the measures you need to take. That's their job. So they looked into this. They hired one of these big international consultancies. They paid a lot of money. The consultancy started work. They did their Excel sheet. They did their PowerPoint. And then they came back and they told the system operator, so, dear system operator, you know renewables, great stuff, but unfortunately in your system you can build zero. You can build 0% in your system. And guess what happened? The legislator didn't even bother to develop a renewables policy. Third example? Do you want to take one more? Yeah, I think one more. again another country, I'm not telling you which one, reached grid parity, or socket parity, if you like. So costs for solar PV, rooftop solar, came down to an extent that the kilowatt hour was actually that you produced on your roof was actually cheaper than the kilowatt hour you bought from your supplier. Typical prosumer moment. And that was obviously celebrated by the renewables industry in that country. They talked about disruption, talked about the future's renewables whatsoever. They were celebrated by civil society. Civil society talking about, well, now this big monopolist, now the future is with small, tiny, little distributed energy companies, etc. The system operator got scared, went to the legislator, and the legislator issued a bill which in the end put a surcharge on rooftop solar to make it just slightly more expensive than the kilowatt hour you get from the socket. Guess what happened? Rooftop solar never took off in that country. So I think I should stop giving you these examples because otherwise you get depressed and you will quit your job in the renewables industry. But let me just give you one last. Have you read the media yesterday? China is freezing its solar program. Last year they built more than 50 gigawatt. This year they're freezing it at 10. So not going into this now, but just as a last one. Now, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not pessimistic, and I don't want to be too negative. But I think the message that I would like to bring across is that, I mean, renewables are cheap now, and that's great. That's brilliant. That's a perfect precondition. That's really a prerequisite for winning this kind of this global battle on the energy transition. But it's not enough. I mean, what's going to happen is we're facing a very tough political debate, a very tough political battle in many countries, and we'll see backs and forths, and it will take some time. So don't be carried away by this idea of cheap renewables. There's a long way to go. And the two messages that I basically have for you when you're going home now, starting either your own renewables business or working in other companies, that's two things. One is build as much as you can, because we need it. 400 gigawatt would be something. And the second one is, and this is what I'm really serious about, keep in mind that the renewables business, the renewables sector is a highly political sector. So keep in mind the political framework conditions, because this is incredibly important for the long-term success of growth of renewables in Germany, Europe, globally, China, everywhere. Thanks a lot. I wish you all the best for the future, and a nice evening.
So now we've come to the end, actually, of the first part of this evening. And before we continue with the second part, a very pleasant part, because it's a get-together, it's a buffet, I would like to thank, of course, all our brilliant speakers, I have to say. I was very impressed. And thank you very much, Andrea, for your speech. I liked it very much. I would also like to give a big thank you to Professor Stripkowski and his team from the Boyd Box, who are actually recording and streaming our conference live. So, and they will actually also stream our presentations on Friday and Saturday. So those of you watching, please join us again. Professor Schindler already thanked a lot of persons, which I would also thank now, so maybe I shorten this part a bit. But I'm very glad that some of the on-campus time students are here tonight, the lecturers are here. Take the chance to get to know your lecturers face to face. I'm, of course, especially glad that Silja made it to join us. And Uta just reminded me of a very important thing, which I have a very short memory, but this I remembered. We would like to do a group photo with all our alumni before the dinner. So when I leave the stage, please go over there to our lovely photographer, and we'll take a picture all together. Outside. Okay, outside. But that's not fair if the others can start eating already now, so but that's okay. So on behalf of the MBA Renewables team, I would like to thank all of you for coming, of course, and I wish you a pleasant evening. Thank you.